There is a lot of studies that have been done. There are a lot of studies that have been done on believing in the supernatural, ranging from believing in superstitions to astrology and even conspiracy theories. This can all fall under the umbrella of what psychologists call magical thinking. Joining us now, Sander van der Linden, who is the professor at the University of Cambridge. Sander, great to have you here with us today. What exactly is magical thinking?
Yeah, pleasure to be on the show. So magical thinking is what most people call superstition. And then there's three ways of thinking about it. One is really that, it's believing in stuff that's not true. But a more kind of psychological explanation is based on the idea that you could influence real world events with your thoughts and beliefs and even your behavior, particularly in the sense that you assume a causal relationship between two events that are in fact completely unrelated. So for example, stepping on a mirror and breaking it and 7 years of bad luck, or investing in the stock market on Friday the 13th and losing all of your money. The idea that the two are related is what we call magical thinking.
And so there's actually a lot of superstition on applying magical thinking to COVID-19. What do these people believe?
Well, yes, there's a whole range of magical thinking on COVID-19. Every time that there's a big societal event, when there's uncertainty and chaos, you see that there's an increased demand, in fact, for these sorts of magical beliefs. One key example is people drinking cow urine, as a potential remedy against COVID-19. This happened in India, particularly because the cow is seen as holy. Other ideas have been yoga. I mean, yoga could be, beneficial to people, but it's not going to cure COVID-19. But the idea is that you can use your mind to will the virus away. And that's kind of examples, modern day examples of magical thinking and superstition in the midst of the pandemic.
And so, Sander, superstitions actually date back in history to ancient Egypt. Why do people believe in the supernatural?
I think, if you look at polls, a majority of Americans actually hold some magical belief, whether it's superstition or ghosts. It's a very attractive idea for people. The idea that, you shouldn't walk underneath a leaning ladder dates back to Egypt, in fact, where, it's seen as a triangle or a pyramid, which was a holy symbol. But from a psychological point of view, what we know from lots of studies is that it's a way for people to regain control. So in times of uncertainty, in times of chaos, it's a way to gain simple explanations for complex events, to regain control and to reduce stress. In fact, there's experiments that show that if you allow people to engage in some magical thinking before a stressful event, it actually reduces stress physiologically. So it helps people cope.
So there's another style of thinking that's called intuitive thinking. What is that, and how is it different from magical thinking?
Yeah, intuitive thinking is related, but slightly different in the sense that intuitive thinking is a decision or a thinking style as opposed to deliberative analytical thinking. What that means is that some people are a bit more intuitive. They respond faster and more automatic to concepts, and they're kind of following their gut intuition. Whereas some people are more reflective and slower and deliberate and analytical. They like to think about problems. So, for example, if I tell you a story that a ball and a bat cost $1.10 together, and the ball costs $1 more than the bat, or some version of it. How much does the bat cost? And so intuitively, people might say 10 cents, but the actual answer is 5 cents because it needs a bit of reflection. So some people are more intuitive than others. And related to that is a concept we call, scientific jargon here, pseudo-profound bullshit. And this is a real concept. So if I make up statements like, your imagination lives inside the exponential time-space warp event. This sounds very profound, but it means nothing. But people who are more intuitive are more inclined to engage in these sorts of thinking styles.
Just while we have you as well, Sander, astrology is another form of magical thinking. Why do people tend to believe in this?
Well, astrology, astrology is the idea that the alignment of celestial bodies like the stars and the sun predict your, future and pattern in life. And again, currently, actually, you see an increased demand for astrology and card reading and these types of behaviors because people are looking for answers in the midst of uncertainty. And so again, it restores a sense of control for people that, somebody else can tell you what your future is going to be like. They're trying to reduce the uncertainty for you and trying to give you some answers. But in fact, they're looking at events, the movement of the sun and the stars, and your personality or life events, which are two completely unrelated events, and to think that there's any relationship between them is what we call magical thinking.
Sander, we didn't even have time to get to superstitions. We'd love to have you back because I, as a former athlete, love to break down superstitions, and I need to break down some of my own too, particularly the color yellow and certain things that I wear when I still play sports. Sander van der Linden, professor at the University of Cambridge. We got to leave things there today. Thanks so much for taking the time, though.